Hello, welcome my fiery friends to another fiery fun stream. I'm your host, the Infernoman here, and hopefully again you're having a wonderful day wherever you're at. So, without further ado, we'll be jumping into it in just a few moments here. Again, how is everybody doing today? Hopefully again, you're having a great time wherever you're at. And hold on one second here. Got something that's kind of acting up a little bit. Hold on one second. Hold please for 1 second here. All right, hold on. Okay, game is there. There we at. Hold on 1 second though. Also, sorry, something is acting up on my side. Give me a second, everybody. Welcome, Dense Planet. Again, hopefully again you're having a wonderful day where you're at, my fiery friend. Hold on 1 second. Something is awkwardly not working on my end here again. So just give me a second here, doing a small little technical issue, and then we'll jump right into it in just a moment. Okay, hold on. Whoop, don't worry. I'll be back in just a second. We are here. Just trying to fix one minor thing. Sorry, trying to fix one thing real quick, everybody, and don't worry, we'll be jumping into it in just a few moments. Had to reset something here, so I'm coming. There we go. Okay, there we go. Okay, we're working now. We're working. Yay, cool. Okay, so sorry for the little snafu there, everybody, but again, hopefully again you're having a wonderful day wherever you're at watching this live, or if you're watching it on the replay. I'm again your fiery friend, the Infernoman here, and we're gonna have a little bit of fun today with a kind of a devious little deck here that we put together. What exactly are we going to be playing today? Well, if you saw from the thumbnail here, we're again getting closer and closer to the holiday itself. So Christmas is just around the corner, but even if you don't celebrate it, you can still have fun with today's nasty little deck here. What deck are we talking about here? Well, the deck, of course, we're going to be playing today is going to be the Nightmare Before Christmas. And who exactly is the best when it comes to Nightmare style of gameplay? Well, we have the one and only Ashiok for the deck. So that's going to be our main focus today. We're looking at playing a Dimir control deck, utilizing as many Ashioks as we can smash into here that still kind of make the deck at least functional. And again, we're just going to try to overwhelm our opponent with a bunch of controlling cards that'll just make sure our opponent discards. We'll have cards that'll remove things. We'll have cards that counterspell. We have a lot of flexibility here to see if we can just eventually just keep stealing more and more of our opponent's cards and eventually turn them against them. So that's the game plan for today. Longtime viewers of the channel, of course, know how we have to do it, though. We have to talk about the stats of the deck before we dive right in. So, just before we get started with everything, let's talk about what we're looking at here. So, as I mentioned earlier, this is a deck that's utilizing Dimir colors of blue and black. You're looking at an average mana curve of about 2.3. We're going to be rocking 15 instants, 6 sorceries, 3 enchantments, 12 planeswalkers, and 24 lands. No creatures in this deck. And again, it is full control. So looking at the whole game plan here, let's start off with the deck itself. As always, for those of you who haven't seen this before, we're mostly going to talk again stats of the deck, some basic strategy and everything, and then over the next couple hours, we'll just play as many games as we can to see how well the deck does. We'll then do a final wrap-up at the very end to see overall if this was a gem or was it a jank deck. Otherwise, let's go ahead and start with a one-drop slot here. So we're going to have actually quite a few spree cards in this deck because we want as much flexibility as possible to make sure we can just handle anything our opponent throws at us. So in the one-drop slot, we'll have Metamorphic Blast, just a single copy of this with the spree mechanic. So it is 1 mana, but we will need to spend a little bit more with this. So with spree, you're going to add on an extra +1 if you want to turn an opponent's creature into a white rabbit that's a 0/1. So great to kind of soften things up a little bit while we kind of set up our next kind of gameplay. You can also spend 3 mana to play this and draw 2 cards. Phantom Interference here is going to be another instant for us. It also has the spree mechanic here. So if you want to pay an extra 3, you get a spirit token. If you want to pay an extra 1, you basically can counter a spell. Oh no, Stickman Jake, welcome my fiery friend. Thanks again for joining us today. Oh no, he went to the dark side. Yes, I did. I wanted to do this actually for a little while, but I think now was probably most likely was the best time to do this deck. So we're going to be playing a little bit of control, and also it has been a while since we've done a control deck, so I figured today is the day. But anyways, continuing on with this, we also have right here with the Phantom Interference. I'm sorry, actually, wait, did we talk about this already? Okay, I'll say it one more time. So, Phantom Interference, so pay an extra 3 with the spree mechanic to make a spirit, or you can pay an extra 1 to just counter a spell unless our opponent pays 2. We have 3 copies of that. And 3 copies of 3 Steps Ahead here. So same thing, spree mechanic here for 1 up front. However, for an extra 2 mana, you can either counter a spell. For an extra 3, you can create a token of an artifact or a creature we control. Or for an extra 2, draw 2 cards and discard a card. We'll have some removal here with Fatal Push here to take care of any creatures with a mana value of 2 or less. If we trigger Revolt, and we do have ways of doing that with this deck, we can then take out something with a mana value of 4 or less. Thoughtseize, of course, in the deck. Normally, I do not like playing Thoughtseize personally, but in this instance here, we're going to be a little bit evil today. So we're going to throw this into our deck, of course, to just stipper away key cards our opponent may have, so that way we can then execute our game plan. Got my deck too, Rakdos Chandra's Snow. Oh, that sounds a little bit spicy. Let's see if we could try to get that to that maybe later today. So hang on to that one, Dense Planet. We will get there. As for the 2-drop slot here, we'll have simply Deduce here. Nothing too fancy here, but it is a great card because you can draw a card simply and investigate, allowing you to create a clue token, which we can sacrifice later on when we do need to draw a card later on. By sacrificing that, that will trigger off Fatal Push for its max value, so this is going to be great for us. We also have 3 copies of Bandit's Talent here, so when this card enters, make an opponent discard a card unless if they have a non-land card, so then they can discard up to 2 cards if they're both lands. We can then activate it to level 2, which means that if our opponent has 1 or fewer cards in hand, they will start losing life each turn. And then if we do manage to pay the full cost for it at level 3, we can start drawing extra cards for our deck, which is going to be great for us over the course of the game. Slow and steady will win the race in our deck today. Now, finally, we have to get to, of course, the stars of the show, Ashiok. So first Ashiok up, we've seen this card many times. It's usually in a sideboard, but we're going to throw it into the main deck today. Ashiok Dreamrender here is a 3-mana uncommon planeswalker with its static ability to means that spells and abilities your opponent control can't cause their controller to search their library. So this is going to basically hose decks that are going to try to search just to make sure they cannot do that. Also, ticking it down just means we can mill 4 cards and then just basically becomes graveyard hate. So it's great for us to just clean up their graveyard as much as possible. However, we do of course want to steal some cards for them. So this is where the brand new card, thankfully, to Pioneer Masters is now finally in Arena, Ashiok Nightmare Weaver. So we're going to talk about this card for just a moment. Ashiok Nightmare Weaver is a 3-mana with a 3 loyalty legendary planeswalker. You can tick it up for 2 and then exile the top 3 cards of an opponent's library. So this will again, we'll start stealing cards off of them. It's not full on mill, but technically it does count as mill because we are taking away cards from their graveyard. I'm sorry, from their library. You can then tick down X, where then you can put a creature card with a mana value of X exiled with Ashiok onto the battlefield under our control, and then it becomes a nightmare in addition to its other types. Oh man, this is actually a pretty gnarly ability. When I was testing this out, this is actually a pretty powerful planeswalker. A lot of people kind of ignore for a little bit in the game. But again, as we keep stripping away more of our opponent's cards, we'll then eventually find at least some kind of key creature that we could throw onto our side of the battlefield to protect our life, and also eventually just hopefully beat down our opponent with their own creatures. Oh man, this is a gnarly card. Hopefully we'll get some sneaky wins with this today. Well, of course, we will need a little bit of protection from go-wide strategies out there, so we do have Ritual of Soot for us just to destroy all creatures with a mana value of 3 or less. Anything bigger than that, by the time they have it out, we should have enough resources or counter spells to prevent the bigger stuff from then causing us problems. And then finally, in the 5-drop slot, we will have 1 copy of Ashiok Wicked Manipulator here. This one is a more situational Ashiok, so we only have 1 copy of it. Its ability allows us, of course, if you would pay life while your library has at least that many cards in it, you exile that many cards from the top of your library instead. So instead of having to pay life, we can just start exiling things to then give us a little bit more value without hurting us directly. By ticking it up for 1, you can look at the top 2 cards of your library, then you exile 1 of them and put the other into your hand. Also, I do want to say, be careful when you do this in Arena because I've messed myself up so many times with this card. The card you are picking is the one that you will exile. The second card goes into your hand, so be careful if you do play this card. I've made a couple mistakes doing that. If you tick down with it, you can then create 2 1/1 Black Nightmare creature tokens with, at the beginning of combat on your turn. If that creature was put into exile this turn, you put some +1/+1 counters on the creatures. So the nightmares here will get bigger and bigger as the game progresses when we have at least a couple of them out. And then -7, not too often you're going to do this, but if you do manage to ultimate it, target player will exile the top X cards of the library, where X is the total amount of value of cards you own in exile. So as we keep exiling a ton of stuff, that minus ability sometimes will just shut them down on the spot. And then finally, my personal favorite Ashiok here is going to be Ashiok, Nightmare Muse. Oh man, I love this card. This is basically a much more classic Planeswalker in style. So it's a 5-mana legendary Planeswalker to have 5 loyalty. By ticking it up by 1, you get to create a 2/3 Nightmare creature token, and anytime that token attacks or blocks, your opponent will exile the top 2 cards of their library. That's actually insane value as the game progresses. Even a couple of these tokens out basically will shut down your opponent very quickly, because as they keep attacking, they will start losing more and more cards. By minusing 3, you can bounce back a non-land permanent from an owner's hand, and then they'll have to exile a card from their hand. So at the right moment, you can not only bounce back the card, and then make them exile it. It's so gnarly. Minusing 7, of course, is its ultimate ability, and if you do that, you then you may cast up to 3 spells from among face-up cards your opponent owns in exile without paying their mana cost. So in other words, you get to basically just pay. You can tick down -7 and then basically pay some of your opponent's spells for free. That's insane good value, and usually will shut out the game very quickly there. Now, as far as the mana base is concerned, we are, of course, going to try to go as hard as possible. So, as you've seen before, this is not a budget deck. This is definitely going to be a little bit more expensive, but I will try to talk about a way you can make this cheaper if you do want to do that later on in the stream. But for now, we're just going to show you what we're going with. So, we're going to have 2 islands, an Otawara Soaring City for bounce effects, Castle Lockwain if we need to draw some cards later on, 2 swamps, some pathway lands, Dark Slick Shores, Gloom Lake Village, a single copy of Restless Reef here. It is kind of helps us out here because it creates a big creature if we do need to just close out the game, and also it helps with the mill plan, so this can help mill cards as we keep exiling them in the graveyard. Watery Grave here is a staple if you can afford them, and a single Mirex here, which does look a little odd, but it helps us again create some Phyrexian Mites, just again if we do want to create a little bit of extra value, and maybe we just want to put some more threats on the board by attacking our opponent. Now, if you do want to take this to best of 3, honestly, this is probably one of those decks that you probably do want to play in best of 3 more often than not, so here's what we would recommend for you. A single copy of Tested Talents to then counter an instant or sorcery spell, and then by doing so, we can then exile them out of our opponent's whole deck, so this is great for stripping away key instants or sorceries out of opponents. If we need some more low-level wraths, we will use Cry the Carnarium here, so this will just sweep away all the other stuff with -2/-2, and anything that does die that turn will get exiled, so it's perfectly on brand for us. Intimidation Campaign here, I actually think this card is highly underrated. So this is actually a really cool card for us to help stabilize, because a lot of our stuff does target our opponent. So we are going to be committing a lot of crimes. And by doing so, we can then make our opponent lose 1 life, and we gain 1 life, and we will draw a card. So this is going to be a simple little card to just help keep our game plan going. Kalitas here is a classic card here that I haven't actually played that much, but a single copy here is really great for our deck, because every time we destroy an opponent's creature, they will get exiled instead, and we can create a zombie creature. So this will help us, of course, slowly but surely go wide. We can also sacrifice the tokens if we need to in a pinch to make Kalitas even bigger and bigger. And again, it also has lifelink, so that's actually great for us to help just stabilize later on. Deadly Cover-Up here is another additional Wrath we added to the deck here. I actually really underestimated how powerful this card is. It's a 5-mana Wrath here, and if we can collect Evidence of 6, which is pretty easy for our deck, we not only do we destroy all the creatures, we then exile cards from an opponent's graveyard and then search their opponent's library, hand, and of course graveyard, everything else basically, to then for any number of cards with that name that we named, and then we exile those cards. So basically, we destroy something, we then pick something that we want to just get rid of permanently out of the game, and then that prevents our opponent from utilizing them forever. If we do need to then deal with more control decks out there, we also have a single copy of Thought Distortion Horror. Not only can this card not be countered, but then we have our opponent reveal their hand, we exile all non-creature, non-land cards from that player's hand and graveyard. So it's more graveyard hate, and again, goes with the whole exiling plan that Ashiok does, and just make sure that our opponent's controlling hand or combo hand just gets wrecked. If we do want to play more of the counter game, we do have negates here, so this is going to be great for us. If we do need to do more creature removal, we have Bitter Triumph and also Destroys Planeswalkers. If we want to deal with not only more creatures, but also some enchantments, we have Withering Torments. And then finally, on flavor here today, we will have, of course, Ashiok's Erasure. Not too often we utilize this card, but it's also a really key piece for select cards that maybe we can't counterspell, or just cards that are just really tough to deal with. We can then exile them while they're on the stack, and then they cannot then utilize that card until Ashiok's Erasure leaves the battlefield. So this is actually a really fun deck for us. Again, I usually don't play control too often here, but I think today was just the right time to do it. So with all that in mind, is it possible for our Nightmare Before Christmas deck to then just overwhelm our opponent and drive them crazy with all of our stealing effects? Well, there's only one way to find out. So for the first half of the stream, as always, we're going to be playing in ranked. We'll be doing some best of 1, and then we're going to be jumping later to best of 3. So let's take our deck into the format and let's see how well it does. Whew, okay, now that I finally got that whole deck tech out of the way, thanks again for hanging in there, everybody. Tell me again, how y'all doing, everybody? Do you actually celebrate the holiday season? Let me know. I would love to hear from all of you if there's anything you're celebrating. Are you doing anything with family or friends? Or is it just another day for you? Even if it's another day for you, that's perfectly fine. I'm still going to have, of course, I still want to wish everybody, of course, a happy holiday season as we continue to go through the thick of it just coming up over the next week. Okay, so let's look at our hand right now. First game again, and we're going to be rocking it here. We got Thoughtseize already, so now it's our turn to be the dirty Thoughtseize player on turn 1. With that, of course, we also have Big Ashiok here. Bandit's Talent could make sure our opponent will discard, and we have also the Ashiok Wicked Manipulator. So it's a little slow, but we can strip away key stuff while we dig for more things. So let's keep this hand. Let's see how well it does, everybody. All right. Dense Planet. I'm broke on wild cards. Yikes. 10 commons, 6 uncommons, 1 rare, and 2 mythics. Ooh, I'm so sorry, my man. Don't worry. Hang in there, my man. I will give you again that good vibe. Hopefully, again, you'll then start building them up again. All right, so looks like our opponent is playing... Okay, so they're definitely going to be trying to go super big with their Heartfire hero. So let's get a peeky peek. See what you got, opponent. All right, we got to strip away something here really big. Okay, so... Callous Sellsword. Oh, actually, they don't really have any pump spells. So I guess we'll throw away the Callous Sellsword. So what we need right now, ideally, would be a Wrath. One Wrath here would then help us out completely. But until then, our opponent's going to just attack us with some 1/1s. It's going to be a little slow going. But looks like our opponent here is getting super aggro. Okay, so we have 3-drop Ashiok, so that'll be great for later on. Let's see. This is where it's going to get a little gnarly because we will have to then spend a little to make this work. All right, we throw away our opponent's Monster Swift Spear. Okay. So, with that, now we have to just provide defense. We have to, again, just find some way, because we're already halfway down with our life. So we're going to play 3-drop Ashiok. Start exiling stuff. Hopefully we'll start getting their pump spells. That's what we want to get rid of. What did we get? Okay, we got rid of a Monstrous Rage, which is good. Manifold Mouse, and Slickshot Show Off. Okay. But is our opponent going to then attack Ashiok here? Okay, they're probably not. So they're going to try to be aggro here. So our biggest weaknesses, at least currently in this format, is going to be dealing with decks like this. The hyper aggro decks out there that just don't really care about what we're doing. If we manage to get the Wrath early on, this deck does great because we can stabilize very quickly. But we're right now in a bad spot. And I don't know if we're going to be able to survive this here, but we'll try. We're going to tick down. Oh boy, this is actually kind of really bad for us. So with that, okay. So show Manifold Mouse. Okay. Pay 2. Manifold Mouse comes out. And then, there's not really else I can do. I think we're already kind of dead on this one. Because we can block here. We give a Double Trike, that's fine. But even if, say, we take out Heartfire Hero, we're kind of dead already. So, not quite fast enough, but that's okay. Okay, I mean, at least here we can counterspell. It's not the end of the world, but it's fine. Because either way, our opponent's got us dead. Alright. Opponent, go ahead. Anything else you have in hand? Sellsword? Yeah, they already got us. Alright. Well, not off to a good start here, but that's okay. I mean, we're going to deal with aggro decks this time around, so now we're on the opposite end, where normally I like to play aggro, but this time around we're now going to have to play the long game. So we'll see. Hopefully we'll get him on the next one. Okay. It's alright. We're just going to play, again, as I said, as many as possible, and we're just going to try to see, can we get around this? Hopefully, again, we'll have some games which really set up Ashiok here. I've tested Ashiok out quite a bit. The 3-drop one that just came in from Pioneer Masters is actually a pretty good card. Although, unfortunately, I actually had to spend real-life money because I had no more Mythics. And in order for me to actually get this deck ready for the stream today, I had to spend a little bit more than I wanted to. Yeah. It was not good to spend actual real-life money to get the wild cards. But hey, here we are. Here we are. Okay, moving on. So with that, all right, so we got the turn 1 Thoughtseize and a Fatal Push here. This is actually sweet for us. Same thing. We have a lot of slow Ashioks, but that's okay. All right. All right, looks like Arena's just going to set us up with a bunch of aggro decks today, but that's okay. That will put us, again, on the test here to see how we can get around some things. So we're going to wait. We'll hold on to the Thoughtseize, and we're going to see what they throw at us. If they give us a big creature right now, I can Fatal Push it away. Opponent, what do you got? Show me what you got. Slickshot Show Off coming in. All right. So with that, sorry, opponent. Show Off's bye-bye. Say goodnight. All right, we'll put down an island. And, 3 steps ahead's okay for later on. But I think we're going to have to do Thoughtseize now. Okay, let's get a peeky peek. Let's see what you got, opponent. Okay, so with that, I guess we'll get rid of the Kumamo. The only downside is we are going to take a lot of damage by doing our own thing, but hopefully we'll get around this. All right, another land for opponents. Monastery Swiss Sphere coming in. They be swinging. Yep. Den Splint. Is Blood on the Snow even good anymore? I kind of regret spending my rares, and I'll be honest with you. I guess I'm just going to be honest with you, Den Splint. It's not as good as it used to be. Only just because we've gotten cheaper, better Wraths in the format. So, something to keep in mind. Don't stress, my man. I'm sure you could find a way to make that Blood in the Snow work on a separate deck. Maybe in the future. So, don't feel bad about that. Right now, we are already halfway down on life. We really could use a Wrath right now. That, I think, would help us out. But in the meantime, 3 steps ahead, we will counter this. Seems a little expensive to counter, but we want to try to lighten the damage against us as much as possible. We need to soften the blow. Down to 7. Okay, deck. We really could use a Wrath right now. That would help us out a ton. But until then... Okay, I might have to do Desperation Deduce here. Hopefully I get at least a Fatal Push to slow us down. Okay, Slickshot Show Off. It's not scary as is, but... Come on, deck. Okay, 3-drop Ashiok is not enough. Ugh. Oh, Thoughtseize, we don't need you now. Oh, boy. All right. Okay. Well, I think we're cooked on this one, too. Dang. Because even if I do this... I could put in 5-drop Ashiok, and I can make a token. That's just not enough. Dang. Alright. Well, as I did mention, this deck is ideal for best of 3, not best of 1. But there are going to be some good matchups we can get. We just need to hopefully ensure Arena does not try to mess with us too much here on the ladder. But again, it is what it is. Alright, so with that, let's go ahead. Let's just keep going on. Keep on keeping on. Keep on keeping on. Okay, so we'll try again here. Alright, so with that, let's see what we got. Alright, so we currently have right now Fatal Push, so we have the turn 1 thing here. This time around, we do have the Wrath, so that's pretty good. See, hold on one second. Oh, hold on.